I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 meeting of the Ridgway Sustainability Advisory Board meeting to life. The way we had the agenda set up for this was, but we have Terry on the line here, review of authority and procedures for the board, discussion regarding terms of office and selection, but maybe we should just jump all the way forward to item number 4 and have Terry give us the synopsis of where he's at in the DOLA process with the Green Street Sustainability Park. You up for that, Terry?
Yeah, you want me to do that now? Okay.
Does that?
Yeah, I think the first 3 items we may as well postpone or wait on. I think we need a majority, if not all of the folks in here to have these conversations. So yeah, Terry, go ahead and maybe kick off this conversation about that master planning process.
All right, let me
Yeah, Terry, I think it'll be great for me and Preston to hear the same thing in the same space, and Kenny's here too, so that'll be great for him to get up to speed as well.
Yes.
All right, let me see if I can share my screen here. So you cannot start share screen while the other participant is sharing. So somebody else has to stop sharing. There we go. Let's see, is it this one? Let me move it over. Give me a second. Good, I can get this out of the way, and then I can go back to work here. Let's see. All right, can you see this email that's up?
Yeah.
All right. Let me start high level here. If you can see this, so these clips I'm about to show you are excerpts from a draft feasibility study that I had to submit to DOLA to meet a milestone. So they kind of paint the picture of the whole Ridgway microgrid. So if you can see this drawing, I don't know how to make it bigger. Let me see. Can I make this bigger? Oh, well, can you see this well enough?
Yeah, and also have it on my laptop for Kenny and I to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's right out of the email. So in yellow shade are the 3 major component locations. Originally, before the whole athletic master park thing, I had intended to have everything down here in the corner by Dana Ivers. The athletic park master plan forced me to look for a new location for the town portion of the system. We call it town, not owned because we're owning it, but the part that we would consider the town community area, not the Dana Ivers system. So for now, we're locating that up there in the Green Street area. And as we presented, we're looking at this concept of a Green Street Sustainability Park. I'll go into more detail about that in a minute. This other location, once I realized that I could actually operate the microgrid, which, by the way, let's see if I can find this real quick. That I can operate the microgrid in pieces. It revealed some other technical possibilities, one of which is the idea that I don't have to have the battery bank actually located next to the microgrid either. So looking at now locating the battery bank in the utility yard with SMPA. Anyway, so I won't go any further than that. So up here is the battery system, and I can put some solar in the utility yard, the Green Street, and Ivers. So that's the nature of that graphic. Looking specifically at the SMPA yard, we can design some solar on the roof. We can design a solar carport that would, cover the employee parking in our fleet, our fleet, and then this would be the battery location right next to our generator. So that's why that graphic is in there. Moving on to Dana Ivers' property, I'm under land lease negotiations with her. We've done soil tests out here already, and we've done topographic surveys to see where the water drainages is. We would be leasing this strip up here, which would be the access to her property along with the property. So this portion's in play. And the reason this is so far along is I had to submit a $1,000 special use permit with Ridgway County to get this going. So I'm under land lease negotiations with Dana for a market rate for her property. And we're underway with the special use permit, early part of that application. They've already come back with a whole list of things we have to do, including public notification and all the requirements of a special use permit. Then originally I had designed a year ago, putting solar in the Green Street Park in this configuration, and that kind of fed into that design concept that I shared with everybody a while back. Let's see if I can find it real quick too. Hold on a second. I had it open. Here it is. Let me move this over as soon as it opens. So the Green Street Sustainability Park concept was born out of the idea of taking, can you see this?
Yep.
Yeah, taking the existing 10-year-old master plan for the park, trying to combine it with a previous design element, coming up with this hybrid monkey here that this was my drawings done late at night while I was drinking, to come up with a concept of how to combine.
There's thousands of people streaming this on Zoom right now, Terry. It's a public meeting.
I didn't say what I was drinking. It could have been lemonade.
Yeah.
Could have been.
Yeah, and this is what prompted this concept. Well, since then I've had to move on and keep on schedule, which is why we're back to where's my damn email here? I have just a few emails open. Where is it? This. So moving on, I needed to continue to do the electrical design, and this is a new electrical design. I'll show you that here in a minute. But what we've come up with, well, let me just start with that real quick. Sorry to bounce around. Wasn't prepared to speak. Was relaying out the array like this in that space. And the reason for that was I discussed with the engineers the idea that if this is going to become a component of an educational facility, outdoor sustainability education facility, it might make sense to design the array with two different layouts. One is tracking and the other is fixed. That would also lend itself to having the school, for example, measure the efficacy, the amount of solar per watt that you get out of a fixed array versus a tracking array. It would lead to differences in the way you might be able to use it for agrivoltaics, etc. But this led to this whole engineering design, which gives me so many annual kilowatt hours and various sizes, the information need to work with the design. So that's what drove this video. And since I have engineers that I'm paying for, and I have to develop 3D renderings for the special use permit for Dana Ivers, I had them start working on just a conceptual 3D rendering for this park, taking some of the basic elements, knowing that they're all subject to change, taking that solar array design.
Paul, I'm sharing my screen. Curious about how all this fits in, just the basics, and not add a lot of detail. So this is just
Sorry.
To the east and to the west. Here's your sketch.
Could you hear all that?
Kind of help me see what.
Not real well.
Okay. Well, don't worry.
So
let me turn off the sound. Hold on. So basically, he's laying out elements of the array, with an area where there'd be EV parking and a pedestrian trail. These are just really fundamental basic elements, taking the concept from that park plan and beginning to do a 3D rendering to give a visual concept. For example, the fence would change, but the idea here is that we put a pavilion, an outdoor education center. This is where the pump house currently is. And you can kind of see where he's going. This is narrated so you can tell what questions he's asking about the concept. But this would be the northern section. Again, probably with the same fence concept as in the community park. So here's the community garden. This is where it gets weird. Let's see. Let me just jump ahead here. And he's showing sort of the high level concept of where the various elements would be. I don't know why this keeps doing that. Anyway, so what I'm trying to do here is come up with the initial straw man, essentially, or a conceptual design to act as a palette to feed into the new park planning process, the Green Street master plan process. So I won't go any further than that, but you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Once this is just a draft, but once this is more fleshed out, I'll have something interesting to present to the process just to get it going. Kind of the way, if you recall, if you were present during the early phases of the athletic park master plan, there was an initial drawing, then that became another drawing. There ended up being 4 versions. So this is sort of just a shot at version 1. And part of that is, as I discussed with Preston and JT earlier, Kim, if in fact we're assuming that this Green Street Master Park, Green Street Sustainability Park is the impetus for going through this new planning process without the idea of adding solar to it, it would just be a revision of a 10-year-old plan that's sitting on a shelf somewhere. So the idea is that the solar is now redefining the nature of the use of the park to be this Green Street Park, and that the renderings I'm doing would just sort of help give you a better version of this drawing, as a starting spot for the master plan process. Any questions? Sorry for stumbling through that.
Terry, you're functioning, as we all know, on a timeline that's beholden to the DOLA process and your marching orders at SMPA. What you're hustling on right now, can you give us an overview of the timeline you're working on? What's on your schedule? What are the dates you're trying to meet?
Yeah, I think I can actually show you that if I can find it real quick. Hold on, I've got that outlined. I got too many things open here. Let me move this over here. I do have a clip of that somewhere from the actual DOLA grant. Oh, I see, that's wrong year. That's why.
I'm asking in general terms, just so that we know where you'll be when it comes time for the master plan process to be rolled out to the public.
Right. I have an actual timeline here. If I can just find it real quick, give me a second. You can see I've been doing a lot of stuff here. Anyway, there's a deliverable schedule in my contract that I thought I had easy access to. I can't seem to find it quickly, so I'm not going to spend any more time on it. By the way, this is interesting. Let me pull this up. This is the actual circuit. Can you see this? Yeah. This is the circuit that would be backed up from the microgrid. So the circuit actually goes past here, feeds all of Pleasant Valley up to Log Hill, comes down and feeds the other side of Ridgway. But what's highlighted in green is the isolated circuit for the microgrid, which, as you can see, is the majority of Ridgway, and it goes all the way out, ironically, past Dana Ivers' property to where the water tank is, where our water treatment plant is. So it includes the water treatment plant, it includes Dana Ivers' property, which is coincidental, but the water treatment plant's this little spur right here. So, and it goes up towards that first turnoff up to Log Hill there. So the time frame is I have a December. I have 3 quarters that I'm reporting on. So the next quarter is due in December something. I'm sorry, January 31st, and then it's 3 months after that. So I have another quarter. The entire timeline of the grant, it goes through July of 2024. That's when I have to conclude everything and submit the final feasibility study.
Got it. And since it's both on town land and on the county land, how does that shape out on how you'll approach the county for the issues there on Ivers' property? It's
a good question. How does it accelerate the timeline? I may not be able to complete the special use permit process in time to conclude the feasibility study, in which case I'd either apply for an extension for the feasibility study, and that's likely what I would do, because all of this is to inform the next round of construction grant funding. And to put that in context, the construction grant was what I just wrote an application for, which I guess I should have mentioned, for the Space to Create building. So I submitted a construction grant application for Space to Create. So it's going to be a year from now before the window opens up, well, a year minus a month or so, for the construction grant for this whole thing. So that's why I think I have time to extend the feasibility study if the intention of it is to inform what I need to write the construction grant, which is probably going to open up in September of next year. Well, actually, it's due by the end of September when I submitted it. No, I'm sorry, November. So
That's the fees, just to be clear, that's the feasibility for the Ivers property or space?
No, for the entire microgrid. So,
For the entire microgrid.
so the combined full microgrid, let me get to it. This whole concept of the three disparate elements has to be designed, costed, and wrapped up into a single feasibility study. Right now, it's due by the end of July. I might extend that because it's the result of the pro forma coming out of this that will provide the go, no-go decision for San Miguel Power to finance it. So if the value of the energy produced by all three of these elements is minus the grant money that I would apply for, if that lends to a cents per kilowatt hour that's less expensive than what we're paying Tri-State for wholesale power, then the board of directors is likely to approve going out for financing and building all of this. So the planning grant is step one in the process. It's to inform the construction grant, which then leads to the decision of whether or not this is economical for SMPA to, finance, own, and operate.
So the critical dates, the upshot is July, but later if you need, but ultimately November with the whole thing tidied up.
Right, exactly. I've got to have land leases in place. I have to have permission from the town. I have to have permission from SMPA to do this portion of it. I've got a lot of work ahead.
Yeah, well, you've done a lot of work already to this point to keep this thing alive and elegant.
And this is one of 5 I'm working on.
Yeah, Terry, question, or a little bit of a concern, I guess.
Dave, were you there when I was going through that video link?
Yeah, I did hear most of that. And my only concern is that that it's clear in this process that the town and our committee have requested SMPA to do some of this work and evaluation in order to give you top cover. I mean, we don't want, I think, SMPA proposing that we have a Green Street Sustainability Park, because you will be open to pot shots from a lot of people who may feel else, it would be better to have the sustainability committee and the town saying, what we heard from the community, that we wanted to put solar elsewhere, and this is in our, in our plan, and we've long had this in our plan, and we asked SMPA to look at it because Green Street seemed to be the natural place, and it's just so we set this up for success and not get too many pot shots along the way as this starts to come together, maybe this spring, summer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, hey, Dave, this is Preston. I think that makes a ton of sense. I think those are some really good points. There have been several public meetings with the town council now where this concept has been discussed. And there's certainly buy-in for that. So I wouldn't worry too much about it being SMPA driven. There's clearly buy-in from the town board, discussions in the public forum. You can pull minutes and video recordings for that. And then on a fundamental level related to the budget, the master planning process for this Green Street Sustainability Park, funds have made their way into the 2024 budget. The budget isn't slated for adoption until we're looking at January now. JT and I were talking about this earlier, and I don't want to be long-winded, but because of the special legislative session and some of the property tax relief stuff that the state legislature did, it pushes out the budget milestone dates. The 2024 budget won't be adopted till like January 10th. But I'm just trying to paint a picture that the master planning process for this park area, what Terry's presenting is really cool and a good head start. But the funds are there to undertake that process. It may look very similar to the master planning process for the athletic park. I anticipate being able to put that out to RFP out to bid in the first quarter of 2024. It could look a lot different than the athletic park because that was a much bigger parcel with a ton of uses. It's not apples to apples, this one, so it could be a little bit different. But that remains to be seen. I think this committee will be heavily involved in making a recommendation on who to go with for leading that master planning process and spearheading the public engagement. But I'm sorry to go on all those tangents. I'm just trying to answer your question as comprehensively as possible.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to chime in too, Dave, to your point. Definitely, that's been a large part of the discussion, given the quagmire that Terry and Kim Wheels have had to wade through navigating Rico, Ophir. So very aware of that. And so, and that's why I asked Terry the timeline, because he at SMPA, he's obviously working really hard on this to get it going. And certainly there's going to have to be a savvy rollout if and when SAB decides to present this as our vision to council and to all the stakeholders in town. So
Right.
on the communication side, I think, that's going to be a robust conversation on how we come up with our elegant salvo.
Yep, I agree. And so Terry, I would just, as you present this, whenever you do, I would practice saying, this is what the town has asked us to do. This is what SAB is, just kind of make it clear that you're responding to requests.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just the way it's framed in terms of the public outreach. And like I said, I don't expect what you're seeing here is the way it's going to end up. I imagine this horse will turn into a camel at some point, but what we needed here to move forward with the feasibility study is to nail down a system size. And so I did that by doing this design that you see, which would take these trackers, the quantity of trackers, somehow lay it out in the southern portion, put a fixed array up here. Like I said, this would give the part of the education center a chance to see how does the array perform differently per kilowatt. It's fodder for the schools to use for data collection and analysis, and it also would give a varying degree of uses for possible agrivoltaics. And also, this is just my input to this designer is don't put the walking path around the northern section because it's too close to the apiary. I don't want people up there. And make most of the education portion in the southern section. And then all of this is subject to redesign and reconfiguration. But I just needed technically to have a starting point so I could say, all right, this is the size array that I can place here. And then the other arrays that you saw on the Dana Ivers property and also the SMPA, if you consider all three of these components a balloon, if we squeeze this down or squeeze this up, I can squeeze the other, I can compensate, but I needed a total amount in order to move forward with doing the economics on the value of the energy. So I'm going to offer this once it's completed as just a canvas for a starting point for the master plan to run with and use as a reference to what's possible. And
you're going
As
to
requested by the town.
to be clear though, for all intents and purposes, you're doing this in the laboratory of SMPA right now, under the timeline and the requirements that you have for your goals. Ultimately, as it's been bandied about thus far, is that this set of values in this conceptual plan will be rolled out by SAB, correct? To town,
correct.
Not by SMPA.
That's right. Yeah. So I'm doing this to help
that-
inform you in
So-
that presentation.
So just to be really clear, so in the meantime, right now, this is within your purview, our purview at SAB, and really nobody else's. You're not going to be presenting this to anybody else outside of the scope of town,
No,
other than to your bosses and to DOLA.
that's right. So this is, in fact, I don't want to present this publicly, even this concept publicly until it's been put into the, offered as an entry point for the master plan process. And then that process takes it from here. And I, hope maybe these renderings would be useful. Maybe the contractor that's doing these renderings could be used by the contractor that the master plan processes. They may have their own, but so this could be fed into that process. But I don't plan on presenting this publicly at all, unless the SAB asks me to. In other words, SMPA is to be considered a tool in the process.
So Terry, I think this is Preston again. I think it's made clear now. This is a good starting point. I would advise from a staff perspective. This is a good conversation. Make sure we're on the same page. I don't see any, these meetings are open to the public, transparent. Folks may pose questions at some point if they stumble upon our meeting or the videos. Doubt it, you never know. The kickoff for this will be when we draft an RFP seeking a consultant. This committee can be tasked with reviewing the RFP and making sure that it lays everything out correctly, especially the narrative that we're talking about here, how we're getting to this point, how there's buy-in for this concept. And this is going to be the starting point. I think that's going to be a huge piece, is having that narrative or that picture painted in that RFP. It doesn't need to be wildly long, but it needs to paint a picture for the folks submitting proposals. And that'll be, as I said, in the first quarter. That's really where this starts to get rolled out. So, just again, want everyone to be on the same page.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I'm happy to help, lend some draft narrative to it, and that you guys can, massage and edit as you see fit, but just capturing the ideas as I have them, with this, how this came to be to what you're looking at, the history of it, and also the high level concept that was first presented to the town that stimulated the vote to budget $25,000 to go forward with this.
Yep, and you're providing all of the fundamental technical and conceptual information that we can go forward and explain the strengths of this option going forward. And the humble pie that I've been eating in learning my role as counselor, and I'm sure you have too, is that once the RFP is sent out there and input from the community comes, the more robust a foundation we have in this conceptual plan, the more we can champion it, but on equal level to everybody else that's going to show up as stakeholders. So I want to be, I know how invested you are in this, and I know the timelines you're functioning under. And that's why I asked you about the timelines, because I know we're going to have to just figure out the right, as Preston said, kickoff and cadence and language and all of that once you have all this stuff in a tidy bucket. Right.
I agree. Yep. And I think to your timeline point, if I don't know exactly when they're going to roll out the next construction grant round, but I know that the one that I submitted was due, when did I submit that? November 18th or something. I got to go back and look for the space to create. So, and it was, it took me a month to put that together. So probably October, if we just used October as the point in the sand, that, it would be great if we could formulate the contract for the process to the planning process, the park planning master plan. Sorry, there's so many terms in my head, to be concluded by October, if that's what you were getting at.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense, and I think that's feasible if we start in the first quarter, and then by then it sounds like for that construction level grant you would need some sort of land lease. So
Yes.
that would be the logical next step after adoption of the master plan. So
That's right.
thanks for presenting all this, Terry. This is great.
Yeah. Terry, I'm gonna keep the meeting moving forward.
Okay,
As
thank you.
But before you go, and thank you for your time, before you go, I just wanted these guys, and Joyce is on here, Dave's on here too. I wanted to update you guys that I've been in communication with Josh Ewing a little bit more. I shared some of that yesterday at Sneffels Energy Board. But Josh Ewing at Rural Climate Partnership it's not a done deal yet, but he's in the process of hiring a consultant that's going to serve the Western Slope on projects like this for all the communities that are involved in Sneffels Energy Board, navigating whether it's a PV system, a resilient system, an agrivoltaic system from the communication side. And that's going to be either fully subsidized or nominal expense. So that's going to serve a great resource as we figure out how the two timelines dovetail together between town process and your process and all the dates you just mentioned. So I think that helps us get a good bird's eye view of what we have coming up in 2024.
So quick question. So town of Ridgway would be the one to put the RFP out for, I guess, a consultant that would put together a different variations of the park, and town would pay for that. But would for SMPA's grant planning portion or what they get for construction, was that something that where their funds would come in play as long as the solar component comes in, right? So like they would cover or help subsidize the solar portion of the park. Is that how?
That's a great, yeah, that's a
ties
great
together?
question. That's a great dividing line, is that with it, other than, grading or whatever civil works that may need to take place that could affect the whole park outside of the fence, so to speak. Yeah, the funding would be strictly for the power system component of it, not for, pavilions and vegetation and things like that. Although sometimes the vegetation is a requirement, like it is for our community solar garden in Telluride. The funding for the vegetation, which was a visual and a sound buffer, was included in the cost of the project. So there could be some overlap, but generally speaking, it would be the things that are required of the solar system itself. And that could include some vegetation, but not necessarily paving the pedestrian trail around the outside and things like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Could I share my screen for one more second? I have another quick thing I wanted to show you that I don't think I've actually mentioned to anybody before, but a month or so ago, I spent a weekend working on another grant for the agrivoltaic component of the, I gotta get back to my Zoom, of this system.
This is the one done with the other gentleman from up by
Yes.
Palisade?
Yeah, and I just found a graphical representation of that grant. I'll show you right here. It's called I don't know if you can see my screen. Yeah, the Community Power Accelerator Prize. So I've worked with another community solar garden and agrivoltaic system up in near Palisades. We put in a joint application. I've got some work to do. They sent back a bunch of questions, but it could provide $50,000 that we would split with this guy. So $25K may be coming to San Miguel Power to fund specifically the agrivoltaic component of this array. So I've been kind of working the fringes on looking for other money too. And there could be as much as 200,000 in the second phase that we would split, and then another 150. So what's that? That's could bring in as much as $200,000 to this project to be used for some of the agrivoltaic aspects of it. Just FYI. Another thing I did in my spare time.
Amazing, Terry. I'm amazed you can sleep.
I don't. Anyway, thank you for let me share that. I forgot that's another angle that I've been working on.
All righty. Thank you, Terry. That's amazing. And yeah, as we arc into this next year, all of that stuff is going to be so crucial to how we set up our tact at SAB for what we're going to focus on this next year as well.
And JT, when I have time, I'll share the application for that so you can see what's involved and see how to, how to potentially message or incorporate the messaging of that into your overall narrative.
Alrighty, that's going to be an important strategizing meeting for all of us on SAB and with town. Cool, man. Thank you so much. Good luck getting all the rest of those things done.
Okay. All right. I'm going to sign off unless you have other need from me. It looks like the rest of this is mostly an administrative aspects to the meeting.
Yep.
Yep.
Awesome, Terry.
I'll continue to listen and I'll just mute myself and go back to work.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty. Joyce, Dave, how are you guys doing out there? Are you muted probably?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Sorry, I couldn't come in person. I'm literally just now getting back from Montrose. I had like a orthopedic appointment for my hand that they scheduled last minute and it went way longer than anticipated. So I'm just now like getting home, but I joined while I was driving, like once you get into town a little bit and there's service.
I'm in a bit of an awkward situation here. We just drove 7 hours today to Kingsport, Tennessee, and just sat down at a dinner table with a med school friend that I hadn't seen for 15 years. So I am listening, trying to listen, but I'm also sitting at a dinner table with friends. So I'm not sure. I will go back and listen to the the recording of the meeting if I miss things, but I won't be as active as I would like to be.
Alrighty, well, we'll try to be as efficient as we can too, and yo-yo back to item number 1. And it's probably a great thing on our agenda for, especially with Preston here, and to do the review and authority and procedures on the purpose of the Sustainability Advisory Board.
Yep, thank you. And Dave, thanks for disclosing that. Don't feel too bad. Have a good time. I try to do this every year with our other boards and commissions. Not that we have a lot, but it's good to reinforce why we're here, what the charge is, stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of me talking, so don't feel bad. And I think you already know a lot of this stuff. And I see Kenny yawning. He's like, good boy, he's tired, he's bored already. I'm not going to read anything.
Thanks, Preston.
What's that? Oh, anyway, I'm not going to read through everything. You all have seen this document before, and it's an exhibit to the resolution that established the Sustainability Advisory Board, right? It lays out the establishment, the purpose, the duties. You have the sub bullets there, A through H, that lay out exactly what the charge is, exactly what you all should be, laying out and trying to achieve. It, largely broad in nature, which makes it tough, right? But we at the staff level and ultimately the town council felt that broader was better, at least to start the group. And in doing research on similar committees in other communities, they were following the broader is better kind of philosophy. So that's how we got to this point. We essentially mirrored that. Number 2, membership and term, composition of the board, not less than 3 members, not more than 7 members. Are we at, I know Vicky resigned. Are we at 6? We're at 6. And 1 member shall be an ex officio town council member. That is you, JT. We also have obviously Terry as the alternate, but he's a very engaged member of this board. It's his right to join, not just as a member of the town council, but as a resident of the town and participate. So we're lucky to have him join when he can, given he's, as you just heard, really busy doing the stuff at SMPA. Although that's his relationship with his employment with SMPA is changing very soon, but you're still going to be working with SMPA. That's a story for another day, but that is happening. Coming back down to the second page, qualification of members. We all know who's eligible for appointment to the SAB. You have to live here in Uray County. There's provisions for removal from office. We won't even go over that because everyone's awesome. We have provisions for officers, that's the chairperson and vice chairperson. There's provisions for how meetings are run. Number 7, I think, is a really important one to home in on and make sure we understand. Mentioned it a few times over the last year. I mean, this board's been in existence for over a year now. So the board doesn't have any appropriation authority, so no authority to appropriate or spend funds. Can certainly provide recommendations to staff and the town council with regard to any annual budget or priorities, programs, projects, and that's why it's so important during the budget cycle for us to goal set, right? I talk with Deb after every meeting. I try to watch the meetings when I have some time. And I don't know, I didn't get the impression that you all were able to really focus on goal setting in the way that you all did leading into the 2023 or going into the 2020, would have been 2023 budget cycle. I could be wrong. That's just the impression I got from Deb. But it's critical, very imperative that the goals and the associated outcomes be established, which can drive the allocation of dollars for certain things. So, and one thing that I, like for an example, that EV ride and drive event, is that what it was called? Was wonderful. It was well received by a lot of folks. If there was a desire to make that happen again, which I suspect there is, maybe once, twice, maybe even 3 times over the course of the year, that would be important to know through the process of the goal setting and understanding what type of promotional materials are we going to be looking at, advertisement costs, stuff like that. A very thoughtful and strategic look at some of this stuff that you all collectively want to achieve, that we can convey to the town council through the budget workshops and those other meetings, and have specific dollar amounts tied to these desires and these programs. So sorry if I'm being long-winded. I'm really just trying. I know some folks have been stuck on this appropriation authority, spending of funds deal. There's ways around that. And I'm saying ways around that isn't the right way to put it, but there's ways that you can feel that dollars are going towards supporting the SAB without being able to have a SAB credit card and go out there and buy stuff and get things done. I hope that makes sense. That's the best way I can explain it. And I think there's a lot of cool stuff slated for 2024 that we can make happen. And then the last provision, council amendments. Town council has the ability to amend, increase, or reduce any change on in these authority or procedures or duties of the SAB. So that is that item. Happy to answer any questions. I hope I didn't go too fast. I just don't want folks to fall asleep.
Preston, 3 goals that we've talked about, and I'm not sure that we've formalized and put them on paper, but one we have as a committee talked about repeating the EV ride and drive event probably next fall, I would guess. And so that is an ongoing thing that we are discussing and we'll move toward. A second one was how we migrate our webpage over, because we understand that the town has a plan to migrate to a new web page. So that's something that we're going to need to look at this next year. And the third one is something that was on our goal list for last year, and I'd love to know where we are with it. And that's the town zoning ordinance and the building code, and how do we what's the next step as far as moving forward to get the building code and get the all electric code, get all that kind of read out to the public and move forward.
Yeah, thanks for that. So on those 3, glad to hear that about the EV ride and drive event. We can certainly make available resources to make that event successful. I think what was done this last year was tremendous, and I think there's ways to bolster that. So that's good to know, Dave. That's been discussed, and is the plan. I'm forgetting the second one, but the third one was an update on. I think you were talking about the
building code.
The building code. Oh yeah, yeah. On the web page, one of the items that personally, on a personal standpoint, that I'm very interested in is the town investing in a new website. Our website's great, but it could be much better. It's somewhat user friendly, but it could certainly be much more user friendly. And so that's a pretty big project and a pretty big undertaking, cost wise and staff wise, to migrate to a new web platform hosted by an entirely different company. Right now, ours is hosted through the State Internet Portal Authority. I think maybe I'm making that up. I think that's what it is. But the dollars weren't earmarked in 2024 to make that happen. So I just want to make that clear. But I really admire the efforts that have been made to get that educational webpage going. And I totally agree that, in the future, whenever we do transition, when I say we, the town, to a new web platform, that'll be the time to see how we can migrate what you all have done with that webpage. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So we'll just stay put and continue to build what we have until that time. That's fine.
And there's probably a number of ways we can help support that from the town webpage perspective. We'll just need to look at that. And then it's the International Energy Efficiency Code upgrades that you were talking about. And yeah, that was established as a goal in the 2023 strategic plan. We just have not had a chance to bust into that and really delve into that. Deb and I have had some really great conversations with Kim Wheels about technical assistance to go through those code updates. We've just had our hands full with a whole host of other code updates. We just, in 2023, I think we're really proud of the land use regulation update that we undertook. That was significant. That was a whole chapter in the Ridgway Municipal Code, and the longest chapter at that. So not trying to make excuses, but it's still on the list, and really aiming to undertake that soon. I think in terms of the milestone or the deadlines from, I'm forgetting that House bill, Dave, but
1132 or 1232.
Yeah, something like that. I think we have. It's not as if we have to get it done by July of this year in the way I recall it, but I subscribe to might as well do it sooner rather than later. Correct me if anybody thinks differently, but again, we haven't had a chance to get into that.
Good. No, I think we all agree with that, and I just hope that we can, and we have done. The town's done incredible things. It was certainly ambitious to try to get it done last year, but I hope we can go ahead and get it on the agenda and move it forward during the first half of this year.
Well, we'll certainly do our best. We'll do the best we can. So thanks for that.
Sure. Good, thanks.
Any other questions? Joyce? Terry? Kenny? Nope. Alrighty. Preston, thanks for breaking that down so efficiently and condensed into a long paragraph. So actually, I think you'll be taking a little bit of the reins on this one too, with item number 2 on discussions regarding terms of office and selection of officers.
Yeah, I don't think I need to talk a whole lot. I just think it's important to revisit terms of office and the chair and vice chair piece pretty regularly, just like the town council does with the mayor pro tem position. Some communities like Montrose, they have like a rotating mayor and vice mayor position. It's like appointed by the board. So I think this is the time of year to have a conversation about about those items. I think, well, Dave, you're at a dinner table. I don't want to pick on you. I feel like Deb has mentioned that you, and again, if I'm incorrect, I apologize, but I think you've brought up maybe the terms of office deal and wanting to see them, what's the word? Staggered. Is that right?
We've had that discussion.
Had that discussion.
Yeah, we talked about chair and co-chair rotations as well as like term rotation. So not all 5, 6, 7 of us are ending terms at the same time, because that could be really challenging. Say if 2 or 3 people ended up not wanting to stay in office to fill those, would be, all at the same time, could be a lot.
Good to know. What I would offer right now, on like the term of office and an attempt to get it staggered is, and I'll let Deb know this, but provided that everyone's in agreement, I think maybe at one of your next meetings, perhaps next month, you all talk about maybe, put pen to paper and do just that. Decide how to stagger it, present something that Deb and I can take to the town council. And get that nod from the town council so that we can put those, or solidify, those staggered terms on the term piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess I have a question for you, Preston, because I know that there was discussion of having, or there was an interest of another person that wanted to be a member of the sustainability board. And so what kind of level of effort is that for you when we're talking about staggering? So if someone does not want to maintain their position, then do you have to go out and solicit each and every time?
Good question. It's not mandatory. I think it's good practice, like, putting a notice out there, maybe putting an ad in the paper. Again, not required by any means. Our creative Main Street board used to, because it was so difficult to fill, the membership roles, as soon as they caught wind of someone interested, they would just bring them into a meeting and introduce themselves and say, hey, you want to be on the board? And oftentimes they'd say, sure. And then we take to the town council and everyone would say, cool. And then they're on the board. We could certainly look at that. But the most transparent way would be to put out a notice. But if you're in the know of someone or maybe multiple folks who are interested, that's great.
Yeah, well, I think when we were talking about staggering next month, I just wanted to keep that in mind, because if we have members that are staggered, say, 3 months delta, then that is quite a bit of public noticing. For if 2 people didn't want to fill, then that's like back to back, right? But if that's the case, then we talk about 6 months staggering, because that would be a little bit more reasonable. And then I guess so. I just want to make sure that we understand what is required on kind of your end. So when we make those decisions, it's not like a crazy amount of public noticing and a lot for you. If there isn't renewal every single time. Because
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I appreciate that line of thinking. I wouldn't worry about that too much. Noticing is a cumbersome process. So whatever you all come up with, we'll take a look at and go from there. But
And given the fact that we have a vacancy right now, I mean, I know we've talked about it with Deb, where are we at right now? Has there been a notice?
no, we haven't issued a notice yet. How many members are there? There's 6.
6 right now.
There's 6. Okay. And there's a desire to get to 7.
I thought that was mandated.
It's
No,
No
it's
less than
not-
3.
No less than 3, no more than 7.
No more
So,
than 7, got it.
I think it'd be great to get to 7. I just was
Yeah,
asking a
okay,
question.
got
I
it.
think it's
And-
desirable, but not required.
I do know of one person that's interested,
Good.
and I think they were gonna reach out formally.
I'll make a note, we'll put out a notice, in the next day or so. We actually have our, next ad in the paper, the Uriah County Plain Dealer, going out, I think next week. Next week sometime, we'll put that as the top blurb on our ad. If you've never seen it before, it's pretty cool.
Already, no, that's good to know. Anybody else, Joyce or Dave, do you guys have anybody else that's expressed interest in that vacancy?
You know, I
No,
know-
Dana's friend that she had mentioned a couple of times.
Correct. Yes, so that Dana's friend from the school board.
This is
She-
Terry. I might have a name thrown a hat too.
Alrighty, so that's potentially, and I know of one as well, so potentially 3 people. Already with Preston, if you put that notice out, then we'll make sure that those people get to see it for sure.
And as part of our discussion next month of, how to do this and change our bylaws, I think that all of us should be prepared to talk about how long we, want to stay on the committee, how long, does anybody here ready to leave? You want a 1-year term, 2-year term? That would be a good discussion to have.
Good point.
Yep. Highlighted and make sure that that point is added into the packet for our next agenda. Any other thoughts on terms and selection of officers from anybody out there?
Do we want to talk about if we want to instigate the rotation? I know that Preston had mentioned that it is common to do a rotation, so it's not one person running it all the time, and it is quite a lot. And JT, you have a ton going on. You're also a council. I mean, you're always going to be our council rep, so you're going to have to play that role and be pretty involved either way. But I know we did discuss it and we did get brought up, and with the start of the new year, it might be a good time to, if we want to consider it, that might be a great clean way to start. So I don't know. Or we could talk about that at the next meeting. It's totally up to the team.
It sounds like term and rotation will be what we have to get on paper in the next meeting. Unless anybody else wants to elaborate at this
That
point.
sounds good. I mean,
Are you comfortable with that, Joyce?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Dave, is your food getting cold?
I'm not being very good to my hosts here, so but I'm going to mute and won't be participating a whole lot.
Okay, well, we're gonna move on to item number 4 then.
Real quick, Dave, if they're friends of yours, they know who you are.
Thanks, Terry.
In that case, yeah, moving on to item 4, update regarding the greens. No, sorry. No, we got it all then, that we just have to approve the minutes tonight.
No, I think, 3, it's the growing water smart.
Oh, that's what I leapfrogged
Right.
over, sorry,
right.
when I moved things around. And that was something, the presentation regarding the fall 2023 Colorado Growing Water Smart workshop was attended by you, Preston, and John.
Yeah, so,
And you're gonna give us an update on that? Or?
yeah, I know you've heard it a few times, JT, but we presented this to the planning commission as well. I just want to make sure everyone here is on the know as well. We were very grateful to be accepted in our application to attend this Colorado Growing Water Smart workshop in Grand Junction. It was great that it was in Grand Junction and not on the Front Range. It was just easier. There were a number of communities that participated. Steamboat Springs, Glenwood Springs, Grand Junction, Fruta, Cortez, Summit County. So Ridgway was by far the smallest community to participate. so we were just thankful to even be there. We had the smallest team. You know, Summit County had a team of 15 people, give or take. Grand Junction and Fruta, same way. Ridgway, it was myself, John Clark, TJ DeLubac, our planner, and Joanne Fagan, our engineer, and Tanya Ishikawa with the Watershed Partnership. And the program introduced everyone who participated to the full range of communications, public engagement, planning, and policy implementation tools to realize watershed health and community resilience goals. Really revolved around best approaches for integrating land use and water planning, assessing how water-wise you already are, how water smart do you want to be. This is just a nice picture. We all smiled. The folks on the ends of the picture were our facilitators. They were fantastic for those 3 days.
Preston, can I interject for a moment?
Yeah,
Just using a water analogy, it's not the size of the ship, it's the motion of the ocean. You guys rocked.
thanks, Terry. Thanks, Terry.
Terry, you cracked one, didn't you?
Good, good.
Yeah.
Been sitting on that for a
No,
while.
no,
supposed-
no, no,
aren't
but,
you
no, but
supposed
there are ice cubes are involved for sure.
Awesome.
Thought you were muting.
Yeah.
This slide just kind of lays out the milestones from the 3 days, setting a team intention. I already mentioned how smart, water smart are we now, assessing that. What do we want to be? Where do we want to get to? What is our water smart message? I'll get to that in a sec. And then developing an action plan. With developing a water smart message, that little box below is the template they gave us for the approach. So you have a and statement, a but statement, and then a therefore statement. This is what we came up with. And I'm going to read it real quick. Please indulge me. Ridgway is a vibrant, small town that values our healthy natural environment, and that makes our community desirable. But we must recognize the realities of a dwindling water supply as a result of a hotter and drier climate. Therefore, the town will reduce its water use on town property by improving irrigation efficiency and increasing drought-tolerant landscaping. And we hope you'll join us. If we work together, we can protect what we love about Ridgway into the next century. So again, that was the message we came up with, and it was astonishing. That's the word I've used a few times when presenting this, how similar all the community's messages were. They really were very similar when being presented in the larger setting. I mean, everyone had it worded differently and used different adjectives and ways to describe their communities. But at the end of the day, it really boiled down to, you could be fine with your water portfolio and supplies, but it's really important to grasp and recognize that the climate's getting hotter and drier and things aren't always going to be the same. And that's what, one of those conclusions everyone came to. So it was a really interesting exercise. This is just a photo of the workshop. It was pretty intensive with boards and sticky notes. This board on the right was a direct image of the action plan that we were putting together, which leads to the last few slides. The action plan we put together with the goal and the associated outcomes. So one of the goals, reduce landscape water usage on municipal turf. Already mentioned that on one of the previous slides. The outcome would be widespread municipal turf replacement to not just talk the talk, but actually walk the walk. And so there's some to-do items for here in the near term that we plan to hit on here in 2024. Another goal, reduce landscape water usage through municipal irrigation efficiencies. The outcomes of that, widespread municipal irrigation upgrades. There's some near-term stuff that we think we can try to get done, at least related to that goal. Just a couple more. Overarching goal of more reliable water supply. The outcomes would be major system upgrades, fully scoped, and even some regulations within the Ridgway Municipal Code updated. And there in yellow, some short-term items that we'll do our best to hit on in 2024 as soon as we can. And I think this is the second last one. The goal of supportive and informed Ridgway community. The outcomes being a form of a media plan that supports Water Smart Ridgway. And there's a number of things that we think we can do here in the short term to hit on that. That would largely be some sort of media campaign developed with really nice copy and media assets for us to outreach to the community, inform them on what we're doing, encourage them to do the same kind of thing. And then the last goal, reduce residential landscape water usage. This one's a little farther out in the action plan. The outcomes being widespread adoption of Water Smart Ridgway residential program. So we really need to better define what that residential certification program would look like, launch it, and get people enrolled. So thanks for indulging me. It was a lot of time, not just on staff's part, but our consultant team. John Clark is the mayor. Tanya Ishikawa with the Watershed Partnership. It was 3 days intensive. Sonoran Institute was wonderful. So it was a big deal for us to participate. So thanks for listening.
Okay. Thank you.
All righty. Anybody have any questions for Preston about what came out of that other than what he just explained?
No,
I have a
go
quick
ahead.
question. Oh, so Preston, does that mean that there will be modifications to our municipal code on the landscaping portion or not yet?
No, not on the landscaping portion. We've already done that, which was part of the assessment on how water smart we are now. We've already undertaken that update to our landscape regulations to promote, more, forgetting all the buzzwords, but water wise plantings, drought tolerant plantings,
Zero escape.
the zero escaping kind of thing. So that was something we've already done. I guess that was it.
Got it. I wasn't sure when the landscape plan got updated, because I think that's the only one I've known of.
Yeah, 2020, the later half of 2021, that got adopted. I think.
Right, Beth was part of that. All of council was, but
Yeah.
Beth
Yeah.
on that. So even going back to Joyce's point, just for clarity, when you're talking about not just the storytelling approach, but the actionable items and everything, there's nothing on the agenda right now, anything related to code.
Yeah, nothing related to code. We probably won't be able to, under the, I'm not sure which slide that is, but it said the goal is more reliable water supply. We are aiming to take a look at our stormwater regulations, and that would be code and standard related, and then eventually get to a point where we look at low impact development standards, which TJ, our planner, has a ton of experience with. And so I think that's further down the line.
Mhm. And how does discussion of water line piping above Lake O play into your action plan here?
That's part of this one right here that's up on the screen or being shared. Major system upgrades scoped, which the pipe you're talking about, like the piping of the Ridgway ditch,
Yeah.
or lining our lake, stuff like that. I mean, we talk about those broadly, but they haven't been fully scoped. They haven't been engineered or designed. I mean, the Ridgway ditch, even just, I'm making this up. I'm not an engineer. We would need Joanne, or Joyce could even help. But I mean, even a half-mile segment of burying a pipe to carry water would be great, but that would be wildly expensive. And that's why we're, and this is a tangent, I'm not going to talk long, but we're looking at water smart grants through the Bureau of Reclamation to where if awarded funds, we could apply them in 2025, 2026, those subsequent years to maybe make those happen when they are fully scoped, when we do understand what the best bang for our buck's going to be, what's viable, what's not. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I understand that, and especially nested in both the master plan and strategic plan and how they've moved. I mean, it's at least moved in priority, not necessarily in action.
Yeah.
But poised to. Okay, that's a good to understand all of that. Anybody else? Dave, before your.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, we've talked about water and some of the things that y'all brought up. It certainly is, I personally feel very fortunate. We're on a sustainability committee, but our town manager and our mayor and others in our town are leading the way and way out ahead of us in some of these areas of sustainability, be it water or, putting in level 3 chargers in the town park. There's just some real great sustainability work that the town has been doing way out ahead of our committee. So thank you.
Well, thank you for saying that. And there's, I don't think I said this yet, but there's a lot of room. We just need to figure out the best approach, but a lot of room to involve the SAB in some of these action steps to achieve these goals and outcomes. So keep that in mind too. I certainly don't want it to be that we're out in front of you all and siloed, right? I mean, we all should be working together, and this committee is here for a reason. So keep that in mind. There's going to be plenty of room for participation. Just not quite sure how that's going to look yet.
We appreciate it, but don't let us slow you down. Keep it up. Thank you.
Definitely keep us abreast, for sure.
I have an anecdote that I looked up today on the Colorado Department of Health and Environment website about laundry and landscape gray water use. And it is moving forward at the blazing speed of government. And it's called Regulation 86. And the framework for gray water use in Colorado. The Colorado Plumbing Board must also adopt a version of the plumbing code that allows gray water piping within buildings. And that's where I see things bogging down almost to death. But the stakeholder meetings for this effort are complete, and the division would like to thank stakeholder, blah, blah, blah. The division will present the developed proposal of Regulation 86 to the Commission on November 13th, 2023. So this happened a month ago. So maybe sometime mid-year, we'll see some movement.
So I do think they got adopted. I didn't attend that session. I was on that stakeholder committee. But it was the most boring thing that I've ever done. I'll be honest.
I nearly fell asleep reading that.
Largely because it was way over my head. I mean, some very, very smart people talking about how to modify Regulation 86. But I'll be honest with you, and I have no problem saying this on camera. Not much is going to change. When last time we talked about this, I think it was in this setting. I think there's still only one, there's not a single permitted gray water system in the entire state. I would need to verify that. That's hearsay at this point, but at least as of a year ago.
I thought City of Golden had it.
They may, but as of like a year and a half ago, when we started to really monitor the gray water Regulation 86 changes, talking to the folks at CDPHE, I was told that not a single permitted system existed around the entire state, mainly because it's cost prohibitive. Even with laundry to landscape being the easiest or most achievable system, to do it in the way that Regulation 86 requires. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I would bet a pretty penny that there's a lot of systems, I don't know a lot, but many systems out there that aren't permitted that work fine, right? That's just my opinion. I'm, going out on a limb. I imagine there's some out there.
Yeah.
And they work fine and no one cares. No one gets reported. It's hard to enforce, right?
Yeah.
But Kenny, I'm glad you bring that up. I will Deb and I will look into that and see if I'm far off, how close I am to, what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Or if it is worthwhile and not not financially restrictive as it had been, but
One of the only examples of a large-scale gray water system in the state of Colorado is a dorm at the University of Colorado Boulder, Williams Village North, where I lived for a semester. Was built with the plumbing that collects wastewater from showers to sinks and flush toilets. Doesn't look like there's much else.
does it say when it was built?
I could find that out. I don't
Yeah, I'm
know.
just curious.
Um,
But anyway, thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Alrighty, folks, then, just a matter of business here. Let me get back to the right page. So that in this case, we definitely are moving on to items 5 and 6, and we need someone to make a motion for the approval of the minutes for November 1st, 2023.
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second,
Thank you. Well done, folks. So the minutes from November 1st have been approved for the record. And we also need somebody to make a movement for the approval of the November 14th, 2023 work session.
I think that's make a motion, not a movement.
Motion.
I make that motion.
Noted.
I have to abstain. I was not here.
And I think, alrighty, all in favor, done. All right, you guys, with that, is there anything else anybody wants to bring up or to make sure we get onto the agenda for the next meeting as well?
No,
When's
just a
the
quick,
next meeting? Is it gonna be the same the first Wednesday or is, yeah?
I believe that would be January 3rd.
Okay.
Where, how's it looking for everybody? Able to be here?
Yep.
Yeah, looks good.
Dave? Oh, he's muted, never mind. I will be on Zoom for that one. I will be on the Front Range of Denver. But, all right, with that, folks, I'm gonna go ahead and conclude the December 12th meeting of the Ridgway Sustainability Advisory Board. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Terry, Joyce, Dave, Kenny, Preston.
thanks to Preston for entering the Lion's Den here.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Good night.
Holidays.
Yes.
Bye.
Be safe.